Jenna, I'm just going to say, you just walked out on the set here with Andy, and you have tears in your eyes, and I know you've just seen Andy. Will you share just a little bit about what happened?
Well, we just had a little bit of a moment when Andy had we had the privilege of working with Andy when I was a 19-year-old college kid who... and Andy had to sometimes reprimand me for some bad behavior. and I just said to Andy, I showed him a picture of my little boy, and I said, can you believe it? It feels like just yesterday I was the little kid who was getting into trouble. Yeah. And he said, I'm sorry I had to do that. I was just trying to protect you. Oh. I wasn't going to share that story.
But, I think a lot of people do wonder, Jenna, about you on that particular day, because we all knew exactly where we were. I know you were in college, but take us through what happened to you on that day.
Yeah, I was in college at the University of Texas, and before then, and Andy knows this well, Barbara and I were a little nervous about being the kids of presidents. There's no guidebook, and as y'all know very well, we're not perfect. And so we had an agreement that the Secret Service would stay back and we wouldn't really see them, although you could see sort of men with fanny packs walking at the University of Texas. And that day there were a lot of men in our backyard, and we knew that something had changed forever. And Barbara always talks about one of the things that many people don't know is that the Secret Service headquarters was in one of the towers. And Barbara was in New Haven, Connecticut at Yale, and they were all in a basement together. And everybody was just trying to contact their family and their friends who they were afraid about their well-being. And Barbara said, in that moment, they became my brothers. That the shared humanity, and I think we all felt that. So many people remember where we were because that day was a day that united us in the darkest time.
When you think about it, I mean, your father was president, but I'm sure you two were worried about him. Andy knows he was there. They raced him onto Air Force One with the engines running, and he was in the air, and it was all so uncertain. And were you afraid? I mean, afraid for a country. I know you cared so deeply for that, but were you afraid for your dad and your mom?
I mean, no, because the Secret Service are just extraordinary, as Andy can to attest to, and I knew they were safe. I was sad for everybody else, but that night they did get evacuated. They thought a plane was coming at the White House, and they had begged my parents to go down and stay in a bunker, and my parents walked down and they said, nobody has slept on this bed since Roosevelt. We're not sleeping here. I need to get sleep. I have a lot to do tomorrow.
Did you worry about the burden that your father was inheriting at that moment, becoming a wartime president?
I knew he didn't want to be a wartime president. I knew that about him. I know my dad is a man, and I knew that as sure as I know anything. But no, I mean, I was a 19-year-old college kid. I didn't know the implications of what was to come. But that night, they got the Secret Service ran in and said, it's time to go. A plane is headed towards the White House. Wow. And my mom said, my mom wears contacts. She said, I can't see. And she said, I'm not going without our cat, Willard. So she found the cat. They carried Bernie.
That's true.
Yeah.
And my dad, you tell.
Well, they came down into the bunker, and they were both wearing robes and very silly slippers, carrying pets, and Laura did not have her contacts in, so it was bizarre. And they went into a nice little room with a bed in it. I was assigned a steel cot.
We await remarks from Vice President Kamala Harris, as well as former President George W. Bush, who will be the keynote speaker in Shanksville today. And we're so fortunate to have two people who know him very well, and we won't make a race to who knows him better, but we have Jenna Bush Hager, his daughter, the first daughter on that day, and Andy Card, the White House Chief of Staff, who now, of course, we cannot forget, was the one to first whisper in the president's ear, America is under attack. Jenna, I never asked you to spill secrets about your dad and something so dear, but I just wonder what you as a daughter, how you reflect on how it changed him and how he thinks about 9/11. It's with all of us and so much with him. I know it personally from how he cares for the warriors who served in the wars that arose out of 9/11.
I mean, that changed all of us, and it changed him. There was one time in college, and you may remember this, Andy, when we were all having dinner as a family, and Barbara and I were ribbing him like we like to do, and usually he likes it too. Yeah. But this day, he did it, and he got up and he left the table, and it almost looked like he had tears in his eyes. And my mom said, "Y'all need to apologize to Dad. He just found out a helicopter was shot down, and that these men died. One of them is your age." And there were moments like that where he was changed forever, and I know. It's hard to even think about.
Yeah, took everything really personally, it sounds like. Andy, this is a moment we're waiting for the former president to speak in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. What sorts of words do you think he's going to offer today?
Every one of us is suffering from PTSD today.
Yeah.
But the president carries more burdens than all of us because he knows that he needed help keeping his oath. His oath he took to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution, us. But he couldn't keep that oath if it weren't for others that would keep their oath to make sacrifices for this country. And so that's a burden that you carry even when you're no longer president. So he carries the burden of having to say thank you to those people who made sacrifices that he would never invite on anyone. But those sacrifices were necessary in order for us to have a safe nation.
And America was calling for immediate justice. Was there a roadmap for if something like this happened, how we would respond?
I'm sure the Pentagon would say they have roadmaps. I found that some of the maps were a little old and stale. But
more Cold War oriented.
Yes. But remember, this was an attack not from a nation state. All of the rules of war are written for nation states. They signed the Geneva Convention. Terrorists don't. So they had played by no rules, and we played by all the rules. And that's the asymmetrical challenge you have in dealing with terrorists, that they don't comply with even rules of decency or respect. They don't respect the prisoners that they take. They don't comply with the obligations to be part of a diplomatic effort to solve a problem. They just want to introduce fear and generate, I'm going to say, disruptions and rancor, and they just don't want us to get along. And so that's the big challenge. And this was the first time the United States was attacked by a non-nation state that doesn't play by the rules.
There were so many indelible moments that they're unforgettable. One of them was when your father was just down there. We talked about it with Andy, standing on the pile of rubble and shouting to the first responders, "I hear you, I hear you." Another is the memorial service a few days afterwards when your grandfather, former President Bush, was there, and what that meant to your dad to have his father there, and as a comfort, but also as a former president who had faced those burdens.
That was that photo, I think we can remember it, is so moving to me, to our family personally, because there's a protocol to how you sit. That's why Mrs. Obama and my dad have become such good friends, because they sit next to each other at funerals and such. So he wasn't supposed to be sitting next to my grandpa, and when he got up to speak, President Clinton said, "Do you want me to move?" So that they could sit together, and then they sat and held hands.
Well, we will continue to mark and remember, and yes, there will be tears.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Find your favorite recipes, celebrity interviews, uplifting stories, shop our favorite deals, and so much more with the Today app. Download it now.